Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. For those keeping count, this is episode 256, and we are bringing back our favorite guest who's been on the show multiple times, but we haven't seen him in like 18 months. Back in, I think, episode 170 was his last appearance, so gotta bring him back. And welcome Steve Gamlin, but this episode is going to be unscripted, like all the rest, unfiltered, unwoo-woo, and unguru. So welcome, Steve.
Yes. Oh, Rob, that is the perfect introduction right there because everything you just said, especially there at the end, you and I are both on everything that people expect from people who do what we do. Anytime somebody hears I'm a motivational speaker, they roll their eyes and they go, "Oh, here it comes, Mr. Mystical Woo Woo." And I just go, "Hey, I'm blue collar woo," which means I give you an actionable thing. I don't give a rat's ass about the science going on in the background. I'm just going to tell you how to do it and make it work and then blow your mind. That's all. So, and we're gonna have fun doing this. So
Oh yeah, we
happy to
always
be
have
here.
fun. I mean, these episodes have I never thought I'd get to over the 250 mark.
Yeah.
In fact, I think a lot of the early interviews I did with you were all under 100. And then
Yeah.
I did a few after that. But it's funny looking back, and I'm thinking, wow, I've been doing this for 5 years. This might be your eighth appearance.
Yeah, I think
But
so. And
the
if you look at them
messages have always
chronologically,
changed.
yeah. Yeah, well, if you look at the earliest ones, and I always joke about this with my earliest stuff, if you printed out the very first one of you and I and put glitter and macaroni around the edge, my mom would hang it on her fridge like it was our kindergarten art project. But here's the thing, and your listeners may or may not be aware of this because you've probably shared it over the years. The average podcast dies between episode 3 and episode 8. So the fact that you hit 10, 100, 200 plus, rock on, man. There's something amazing about that, and I hope more people realize that and don't give up on their dreams so quickly when they struggle early on, and when it's simple, and when, you're like, "Someday I'll laugh at this." Hey, laugh at it now. Just be glad you had the balls to do it,
Yeah,
and just get better.
and here's the thing: is that when I started this podcast, it's the same style, same format, same everything from the very beginning. I don't have special lights. I don't have this big honking microphone that sticks down here and covers up half my face. You get what you get, and you
Yeah,
hear what you hear. It is what it is.
yeah,
But all these people spend thousands of dollars on a setup, and like you said, it lasts 2 or 3 episodes.
yeah, yeah,
Why? Just be. My whole philosophy is keep it simple.
yeah.
So take what you have, use what you have until that day, just that you can decide, hey, this I want to make it bigger, better, whatever.
Mhm.
Then you can invest in stuff.
Yeah. I got a great thank you and an appreciative message from somebody inside of an association I'm a member of this morning, and somebody was asking him about his the first person in conversations he had when he became a member of this organization. I was one of the people he named. He says, "I'll tell you the exact conversation. I was in my basement. It looked like hell. I wanted to start a podcast. I got on the phone with Steve because
Mhm.
he's built 2 recording studios. And I was expecting this thing about, the expensive lighting, the expensive cameras and all that. And he goes, Steve told me to go full on MacGyver, popsicle sticks and duct tape until you can afford to do better. And he said, that's what I did. And he sent a picture of the latest version. Oh my gosh. This guy has taken popsicles and duct tape to an art form. I mean,
Mhm.
he cobbled together this amazing looking thing that cost him very little, but it looks and sounds great. And he's so happy he didn't just go out and do, the Amazon 10 item list that would probably cost about 8 grand to
Mhm.
get started. He just put together what he could and started talking.
Yeah,
And now he's got a successful show.
yeah, yeah. It's success isn't bought. Success, doesn't come from Amazon, doesn't come from a kit, doesn't come from. It comes from you starting and taking action.
Yeah.
You and yeah, these are things that gurus don't tell you. These are things that you know you're not going to find in a shiny object.
Mm.
You know, Steve and I have been doing this for so long. We have longevity. We have history. We have authority. And we come on these podcasts to give people information, to push them along. You know, we're not out to sell you stuff you don't need.
Mhm. And I still joke about that. People say, "What sets you apart?" I said, "I've never, ever, ever in my entire 20 years almost of speaking said, 'Rah, rah, rah,' buy my stuff."
Hmm.
It's like, I just wanna leave you in a better place than you were when you came in the room or on the podcast or on my YouTube channel or read a blog or whatever. I just wanna leave you in a better place or at least give you something to put in your pocket in believing yourself a little more to
Hmm.
just take that one next thing. I'm not promising you, a complete overhaul of your life by buying my super secret formulas. Don't have any.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, the other day I had someone contact me, and I just made a video about it. But they said, Rob, we've been doing all this stuff for years. We've been offering all these things to our clients. And I said, well, how's it working out for you? They said, it's not. We're just, it's too overwhelming. I said, okay, let's take it back. Why don't you focus on that one thing that you're really good at? And they said, well, that doesn't make us any money right now. I said, so all the things that you don't like, that you're not really good at, that's what's making you money? And they said, yeah. I said, get rid of all of it. Focus on that one thing that you really like, because when you do that, you're going to throw all your passion, all your love and all your joy into that one thing, and people are going to see that. And they said, well, Rob, you do all these other things. I said, yeah, but my one thing is sarcasm. And
Yep,
everything I do that's behind that,
yep.
whether it be marketing, whether it be podcasting, with publishing, it's because people gravitated to me because of the sarcasm, and all the other stuff was, oh, by the way, we offer this. And you're like, oh,
That is so true. Oh my god, it's your brand, man, and your passion, and the word passion gets such a bad rap because it makes you think that you're doing goat yoga at the top of a mountain with a
mhm,
acoustic guitar. Passion is just the fuel that keeps you going when everything else is kicking you in the ass.
right,
Your passion for something is what's gonna get you up again the next day to give it another shot. I mean,
right,
it's gas in the tank, and I just hate when I see people in my industry crapping all over the word passion
mhm.
'cause
You know,
I
my my
believe it's a
very my
necessary
very
ingredient.
first my very first podcast back in 2010
Mhm.
was Passions to Profits, and
Nice.
I interviewed a lot of great people. Now we didn't have the video; we just had audio. So I would call people up, and there was programs then that you could use, and it would record everything.
Oh, I remember.
And then someone came up to me one day, and after I've already recorded like 30 episodes, and I think 10 of the people I interviewed are no longer with us anymore. I mean, they went on to, you know, bigger, I can't say bigger and better things. Some of them probably went down to the fiery hells of the netherworld.
Hey, we're not the tour guides. We just we
Uh,
can just we can just assume when you're heading in one
but,
direction that that's your destination.
somebody came and they say, hey, so and so, you know, has our, their podcast is very similar in name to yours. You might want to change it. I'm like, yeah, but I don't even know who they are, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah,
But I think that podcast lasted 35 episodes, and I just, for me, I wanted video. I wanted to
yeah,
be able to see people. I wanted to be able to interact. There's a difference between video and audio only. When you have audio only, you can't see someone's, well, for me, my hand gestures. You can't see my facial features. You can't see if I'm bored, or, the next cue that you might want to, okay, I see the guy's kind of dozing off. Let me do something.
yeah.
And but it took a while for audio or for video to come on board, and but I for me, doing these is a great thing, because you interview somebody, that video can be shared on YouTube. The audio goes to podcast channels. You can transcribe it, goes to your blog. You can take clips, put it on social. There's so many things you can do now that you
Yeah.
couldn't do, back in 2010.
Yeah. I remember the technology well because right around that same time, 2010, I was on a podcast with a woman 3,000 miles away. It was audio only. And she asked me a question and I answered it and I told a story to back up the lesson. And I said, so that's pretty much how that went. Silence. Now we're also talking about very unreliable technology at the time. And so I just kept going like you would do, leave a little bit just in case, a little
Mhm,
buffer. And so I told another story, went a whole other way. Then she was there. She goes, oh, that's great. She asked me another question, told another story, finished, silence. Now, at the end of the 60 minutes, I spoke about 52 of them, if not
mhm.
more. And I thought she was gonna be so mad at me that she would never air the episode, and I just at the end, when she signed off, I just hung up and got the hell out of there. 5 minutes later, I felt so bad, I called up and I said, "Look, Wendy, if you wanna trash that episode, we can try it again. I feel so bad I pirated your entire show," and she starts laughing. She goes, "You have no idea what happened." I said, "No." She goes, "Oh my god, I got disconnected like 12 times. Thank God you kept talking." To this day, and that's now 13 years ago, to this day, if I reach out to her and go, "Wendy, are you there?" I
Mhm.
just get the LOL, OL, 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 OL. It is just a moment. So, wherever you are, you have the opportunity to keep something going or to
Yeah,
to add positive energy to help somebody else out, even if you're not aware you're doing it.
yeah,
Just
and
keep
and
going.
and, the thing about, and I learned a lot in those early days. I had one person said, "Rob, I need the list of questions. I'm not good under pressure." And that was the only episode, even to this day, that I provided questions, and the interview sucked. It's like,
Really?
never again. So,
Jeez, didn't see that
here's
coming.
here's my list of questions. See, there's
Yep.
nothing on there.
Yep. I was joking actually with a host the other day. I was on a show and I said, "Hey, thank you so much for being so conversational." He said, "Well, what do you mean? I'm always like that." I said, "Let me give you a sampling of what I used to get in the old days. Now I'm very cautious." Is the host pulling out the sheet of paper and saying, "Well, Steve, it says here you are an expert in visualization. Would you please tell us about that?" Hmm. And I thought, wow, okay.
Yeah, it,
I
it's
mean, it may as well sound like an AI generated voice. Hey, Steve, would you please tell us about vision boards?
and, since we're talking about AI,
Yeah.
which is, for me here at Anspach Media, AI stands for Anspach Intelligence. Ah,
Quick,
but
trademark
for
that.
for most
Trademark
people,
that.
it's artificial intelligence,
Yep.
and it'll never replace me.
Right.
But there are a lot, and here's the thing: if you are out there right now utilizing AI because you think it's going to make your job easier, then you really don't know what your job was to begin with, because you still have to tell the AI what you do. And most people can't tell an AI what they do if they don't even know what they do. And so when you simplify your business to bring it back to that one thing, you don't need AI to do anything, because everything that you do becomes natural.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Too many people think it's the end all be all. Well, I don't like to write, so I'll let AI write for me. Well, good luck making it sound like you,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
who
No,
you
it
are, if
won't.
you don't even know. And one of my mentors, the late great Lonnie Robinson, who I adore and miss every day, May of 2019, he issued a writing challenge to those of us who were in a group together. He says, "All right, guys, I want you to write and put something on social media every single day this month." He goes, 31 days in the month. I don't care if it's 2 lines or 2,000 words. He goes, you write something every day and you make it just make it yourself.
Mhm.
About halfway through the month, I realized it was like 10 o'clock at night, which is very late for me. And I realized I didn't write anything yet that day. And I went, oh, son of a bitch. I just went on LinkedIn. I would think a line, type the line, think a line, type the line. And the next day he reached out. He goes, brother, I read what you wrote last night. I'm like, was it good? He goes, I heard your voice saying the whole damn thing. Keep writing like that. He goes, It was the purest thing of you so far.
Mhm.
And I wound up writing 26 full-length articles. Shortest one was 425 words
Mhm.
in a month, and crafted my own sound. So I now think, speak, and write in the same exact voice, and that was the greatest transformative month of my entire career
Yeah.
inside that one thing, because it was just pure me. Think it, speak it, write it
Mhm.
in the same voice.
Yeah. And that's the problem I think a lot of people face right now is they don't know what their voice is. They don't know their personality. And so they'll have somebody write the article. They'll get on video and it'll be so sanitized
Yeah.
that you're like, wait a minute, is that? And you're just kind of giving it a double look. It's not them. Wait,
Mm,
no, that doesn't even sound like you.
yeah.
Because it's so sanitized. And then, they'll get on the podcast and they'll sound so. I'm like, wait a minute. Now you have three different voices, and so I talked to somebody that does this a lot. I said, "Do you have a split personality?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you sound different on podcasts and video and article. It's not you." And they got so defensive. It is me, and I spent a lot of money to. Why are you spending a lot of money to do all that garbage?
Yeah.
All you have to do is just be you.
Yeah.
And they say, well, if I'm me, people will think I'm an asshole. I said, well, I think you're an asshole now, and you got three personalities. Pick one.
You're three a-holes right now. It's true
You know.
though, and as a speaker, as a writer, and as a thinker, I paint pictures with words.
Hmm.
And in having been, I mean, I've been in the entertainment world for 31 years. 10 of those were on radio. 7 of those were performing as a stand-up comedian. 14 of them, I was a paid freelance comedy writer, including a song parody writer for a national radio network. So I have to, in a very short amount of time, get my point across. So I paint pictures with words and I say things that are very uniquely me, and using the tools of alliteration and the power of three and comedy and humor and all of these things. I craft things as quickly as I can for maximum impact. That's just the wiring that I've had to go. So back when I was trying to write these big flowery articles and in this motivational, where I look back now and I just laugh and I go, "Oh my gosh, that's adorable." Where I used to write these big flowery paragraphs on setting boundaries with people and not being a doormat for people, and I try to sound almost Shakespearean, and finally one night, back when I was consuming alcohol, I was into my second very tall rum and coke, and I'd ranted to a friend about somebody who'd used me as a doormat again because I allowed it, and I went and found a stock Adobe photo of a doormat on a front porch, and I just wrote, said, "If you're feeling like a doormat, pick it up and throw it off your porch. You may not find your spare keys, but you will find your balls." It was definitely into the second rum and coke. The next morning, I get up and I remembered, I go, "Oh, shoot, I put that online, didn't I?" I went back to delete it and, thinking it was a little too edgy. It is still one of the most universally loved and is shared and respected and commented on phrases I ever said, and everyone, especially women, loved it, and that's who I was worried about offending, because at the time, my audience is about 65% female, 35% male, and I was worried about it, and they all said, "That's perfect, and it's perfectly you. Please do not delete it." And I always remember that. If I'm creating something and I'm worried about it, I gauge it against that. You
Mhm.
know, "Oh, this is fine." That was like the what I thought was the edgiest thing I ever created. So now I use that as my template. I go, "Look, Steve, what do you mean? Just say that
Mhm.
and make it clever in a way too." It's like my thing on karma. Vented one. I mean, I ranted venomously about an organization I heard about called the Children's Wish Network, which is the most evil nonprofit in America.
Wow.
They own the telemarketing company. They rake in $300 million a year, and less than 1% of that money actually goes to help kids. They try to sound like They are Make-A-Wish. Now, I love Make-A-Wish. I'm a volunteer here in New Hampshire.
Mm.
They try to make themselves sound like it. So I wish cancer and every other harmful disease on everybody involved in that organization, and I scared my clients with the rant I went on. Took it back in the shop, took down everything I said, found a picture of a huge Great Dane's head, and I said, "There are times when people do me wrong, I turn the other cheek. And then there are days when I wish for karma to show up as a seagull with the digestive output of a lactose intolerant Great Dane stuck in an ice cream truck." It's the second most shared, liked. I'm like, "Oh, come on, throw me a problem, because my initial old wiring response might be evil, but something good will come out of it that's uniquely me." And I wish more people could find their voice.
Yeah. And speaking of voices, we have some awesome shirts. Yours says "Got Vision,"
Mhm.
and mine says, oh, I gotta stand up here so you can see it. I keep all my dad jokes in a database.
Love it.
And the thing is that it's not that, hey, it's two old guys wearing shirts on a podcast type thing. It's that we run our business how we run our business. We come to work, we have t-shirts, we do what we want to do, and we still make money. Isn't
Mhm.
that like the American dream? The perfect American dream?
Yeah. This is what I wear on stage now, by the
Yeah.
way, and I just tell my clients flat out. They go, "Well, everybody's gonna be in suit and tie." I'm like, "That's delightful. Here's what I look like now," and I just send them my new headshots.
Mhm.
And I love my photographer, Glynis, because I was doing things with kind of the traditional thing. I needed some updated headshots. And she said, "What else you got?" I said, "Well, I got, jeans and this t-shirt that I got." And she looks at it. She goes, "I never saw that." She goes, "Holy crap, get off that shirt and jacket." She goes,
Mhm.
"Just put on your jeans and your t-shirt." And those are all the pictures we use with this t-shirt and pair of jeans.
Yeah.
And so that's how I go on stage now. And I just tell people right up front, "Hey, look, this is who I am and this is how I dress. And this is the question I ask everybody. Got vision?"
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
everybody's been like, "Oh, that's great. We love that." I'm like,
yeah.
"Well, good, because it's how I'm showing up."
And the thing is that, I envisioned this how I am a long time ago.
Yep.
And I thought, how can I have a business where I can work from home or work from anywhere in the world, do what I do, dress how I want, make money. And people are like, well, no, you have to go to an office. You have to do this. You have to do that. You have to have a laptop. You have to have a cell phone. I don't have to have any of that shit.
Mhm.
You know, I see people on planes with laptops, and the guy in front decides, hey, I'm going to put my seat back. And because the way the plane is, now their laptop gets flung back or gets broken.
Mhm.
I take a little iPad. I can put it doesn't get crushed. Looks like a book. I
Yep.
do all my business on it. I simplify,
Yep.
you know?
I when I fly now, of course, I can't if somebody in front of me leans their seat back, I'm already 6'2".
Mhm.
It's tough enough for me to see my laptop screen on the right behind someone's chair, but if it goes down, I can't scrunch enough.
Yeah.
I bring a pen and a notebook on
Mm.
flights now. I go wild with ideas, and
Right.
and it starts with people watching at the airport, which is a trip in itself.
Yeah.
But I figure, "All right, what's the best thing I can do right now? I've got access to limited technology. Let me just blast everything out there." And I always come out with a strategy or an idea or an article or an idea for a video or a podcast or something, or a new stage story even.
Yeah.
Like you talked about mega purposing everything.
Mhm.
One idea on a flight to me could be solid gold because it could hit every direction that my business
Yeah.
shares messages in.
Yeah. And
So
and the
I
thing is people watching, I sometimes I'll go to the mall and I'll just sit there and watch people. And I watch their quirks and I watch their personality and I watch their language and most people are freaking depressed. I mean, it's just the way it is. And some of them do end up going into my Rob versus books.
Mhm.
Lucky them, because now they'll live on forever. Um,
Rob versus the mall walkers.
oh my goodness! But you can do the same thing at airports,
Yeah.
airplanes. Watch people, see what they do. And then take that story, elaborate, make it better, make it whatever you want to make, but that becomes the lesson for what you want to share somewhere else.
Mhm.
I take life lessons all the time and I share them out, and people are like, "Wow, Rob, that's awesome. You have the best stories." Just- I I just observe and
Yep,
share. Everybody can do the same thing.
yep. Oh, even now, almost 20 years in as a speaker, occasionally I still get asked, "Hey, Steve, how do you make up all those stories that you share?" And I tilt my head like a puppy and just stare at them. I go,
That's like
"Really?
make up one.
Really?" I go, "Have you not been paying attention to my life over the past 20 years?" I said, "Look, I don't need to make up anything. No,
Right.
I slap a couple of details and coat of paint and some cool adjectives on it? Well, hell yeah, I do, because I gotta make it a compelling story.
Hmm.
But everything I talk about happens,
Hmm.
and it can be the most insignificant thing that inspires it. But like you said, you just watch people. So anything you share is going to be relatable to
Right.
people. And you're the one who caps the lesson on top so other people go, "Oh." And you embed a little something that they can understand. And you also we make ourselves an authority, whether or not we choose to see ourselves as an authority or the expert or the worst one. I'm a thought leader.
Mhm.
The only thing worse than that is I'm a social media influencer.
I hate that too. It's like,
Here's a hashtag for you, and it's on a sign on my desk. Hashtag up yours. Just so tired. I'm an influencer.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And I look at
great.
these. I'm 54. You're probably the same.
55, baby.
And I look at these 20 somethings, these 30 somethings, and some of them are very interesting. Some of the ones that I watch. I like going to Disney, so I watch some of the Disney ones. And so you got these young people going to Disney reporting about all this great stuff. All right, I like the guys that are a little about my age. And they'll talk about the real stuff. Hey, have real shoes when you go to Disney because you're going to be walking a lot, 7 miles, 8 miles.
Mhm.
Here's all the bathrooms because you're going to have to stop every hour. Young
Yep.
guys don't talk about that stuff.
Yep.
So I like stuff that's more real, that's more relatable. And for everyone that's out there listening, I don't care what your age is. If you share stuff that's relatable, people are gonna trust you better.
Mhm. Yep. Look at the people in their and I know a couple of people who do this. They're in their very early 20s,
Mhm.
and they're talking about everything they've overcome to become successful. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Now, some of them do have some stories of things they've overcome, but I'm not talking about the stuff that, like, we've had.
Yeah.
The longevity, the lifestyle, how many more ways can I wreck my life,
Right.
which as long as you keep flying back out of the ashes, you're okay. But I just look at them and I say,
I
before
like
you go there, just understand that some of the people you're speaking to have had way bigger challenges than you have. So just caution yourself that this is the end all be all because life hasn't punched you square in the face hard enough yet.
or
Better
or
lessons
kick
are
or
coming.
kicked you in the jimmies.
Oh, or kicked you right. Oh man. And the weirdest part is the worst things that have happened in my life were all self-inflicted
Yeah.
for me. Walked away, just dropped off the face of the earth from a radio career because I was just so burned out and frustrated. I was at my last breath of being able to take it anymore. And I just quit. And people go, "Oh, Steve, that's so sad. Your radio career ended." I'm like, "You know how it ended, right? Hi, I quit." And by the way, I don't have a full-time job to go to. I'm just quitting, which
Yeah.
the dominoes of marriage and financial stability, tumbled with it. But look where I am now.
Yeah.
You know, people are so afraid to make mistakes out there. They think they're made of porcelain. I'm like, dude, I have crashed and burned. That's why I always joke, my Phoenix rides a pogo stick. I just keep flying back up out of the fire. I just got to promise myself to bounce higher next time and the tail feathers will grow back.
Mhm.
And I got cool stories, but so many people they're afraid of everything.
Yeah, and
They're
and,
afraid to take a
uh,
chance or to look foolish. I'm like, you
and
kidding?
and and they believe in the media.
Ugh.
If I believed in the media, guess what? I would have never become an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
You know, I've been a full-time entrepreneur for almost 30 years. And
Wow.
people are like, wow, why? And I'm like,
Yeah.
because I enjoy doing what I do. You know, I wasn't always a coach. I wasn't always a consultant. I wasn't always, a marketer.
Mhm.
I was in the trenches. I had a carpet cleaning business. And I busted my nut trying to make a living. And so I understand that you're gonna have to put in blood, sweat, and tears. I did it for a long time,
Mhm.
but I also had, like your shirt says, I had vision, and I knew that I wanted more out of life. I wanted my life to be uncomplicated.
Yeah.
And so I took steps. I made it happen. And I wrote a book, and that book became a bestseller. And people were saying, "Rob, help me with my book." And now, in the last 10 years, almost 40 books later, you know, and I'm helping people all over the world with their marketing. And
Mhm.
so if you have a job that you don't like and you have vision, I'm sure you bring that vision to life.
Yeah.
I can't help you, you know, with everything. You have to be motivated enough to do it, to want it.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time. And
Yep.
there's a process. And you can't skip steps,
No.
you know,
No,
for
no,
for
no, no, no.
for everyone out there. Hey, yeah, gurus are going to say, "Hey, buy my system and you can skip all these steps."
Mhm.
Bullshit. You still got to take those steps because if you don't, you're not learning nothing.
Yep. I saw one again the other day. You can buy the complete library and be certified in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, for $7. You can be certified and you can start helping people right now and build your coaching business. And I just said that is the most dangerous, reckless, careless, and misinformed
Mhm.
thing I think I've ever seen. And you can't skip all the steps. You gotta be and I'm not saying you gotta be certified because coaching is the Wild West anyway.
Right.
Somebody the other day was asking me to be a part of a project for her. I said, "You know what?" I said, "That's not what I'm good at. I'm about the most disorganized person on the planet." And she goes, "Well, then how can you be a coach?" I said, "'Cause I don't coach on being organized." I said, "I have people in my life who are the integrators, and I'm the visionary."
Mhm.
I said, "So I'm actually a very good coach, and my you can ask my clients." I said, "Because I know who I am, I know what I'm good at, and I don't try to do the stuff I'm not." I said, "I didn't just read about this and think I'm a coach on it." I said, "I lived it all first. I got mud up my nose and
Mm.
every other part of my body going through to learn all this. So I only speak and coach on what I know."
Yeah. It's
But there's
it's
too many
like
people out there with the systems and the programs, and all of a sudden you can get certified to be a vision. There's another vision board program out there, and a woman who basically proclaimed herself the queen of vision boards, and she started her own the Vision Board Institute. And I've looked at her stuff. I mean, it's a bit different from me. I don't particularly care for her approach, but if it works for her, great. She's a genius for creating a program with a little certificate, which I think she did on Certificate Maker in 1995, because I saw it at her kitchen table. You can get certified to teach her program. Part of me says genius, but the other part of me just shakes my head and just
yeah,
it's dangerous
it's like,
because
oh,
it's not just what you get, it's who you become.
yeah.
And that's those things, they start out here, but they meet in the middle, and that's what makes you really good. Who
Mhm.
you are and what you do and how you do it and why you do it are gonna determine how long you do it
Yeah.
and how well
Right.
you do
And especially on LinkedIn, you see all these
it.
kids
Ugh.
2 seconds out of graduating high school, now they're life coaches.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been on this earth 54 years, you just graduated, so I have 36 years ahead of you,
Yeah.
but you're gonna teach me about having more out of life?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I love the ones that approach you because I read all your stuff. Your posts crack me up because I always know that's gonna be in the next book. I said, and I remember because you've been very, very generous with allowing me to see the books in advance to write some reviews and stuff. And there are ones I remember exactly where I was sitting when I read them, and I am roaring all over again. And I love the ones that tell you, "Hey, Rob, I can teach you how to make your next book a bestseller." And I just sit back and hold a marshmallow on a stick and just wait for the fire.
And the thing is, when I came out with the first one, I thought, I'm just going to write the first one. And then I looked down. I'm like, shit, I got all this material. I can write another one. And so it was Rob versus the scammers, and then Rob versus the morons. And I thought, okay, I'm going to wrap up this trilogy and have Rob versus humanity, because we're during COVID now, and
Yep.
I'm like, "Man, people keep calling me. They keep interrupting my life and trying to." So I had enough material to write number
Yep.
4, which was Rob versus the entitled, and
Mhm.
it went on and on and on. Now I have enough material to write books 8, 9, and 10, and people are like, "Rob, can you write a best of?" Okay, well, that's down the road. You
Yeah.
gotta buy the first 10
Yep.
before I even publish the best of, because I don't wanna give you all the good stuff.
Yep.
But, the situations present themselves every day. I just learn how to take those stories and share them out, and it goes back to people watching. I'm
Yep.
still people watching, but I'm taking all the information that I'm getting every single day from nonsense, from scammers, from lousy customer service, and I'm
Mhm.
sharing it back out with people to teach them a lesson.
Yep.
And people are like, I don't understand, Rob. How do you write so many books in a year? I write, well, I write a couple, but then I produce a couple. So we're producing 4 or 5 books a year. And just like everything else, you manage your time.
Mhm.
You know, Eh, people are like, you know, I don't understand, Rob. I can't even write one book and you got 40. It's not fair.
Mhm.
Well,
Or
life's
you
not
get the people
fair.
that go, "Rob, you're lucky you've written, all these
Oh yeah.
books."
Well, here's the other flip side of that. I'm like, hey, I'm coming out with another book, and you're like, asshole. I don't want to read
Ah,
another one of your books. Stop writing books.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and like you said, you've written all these books. There's one person who can't even write their first book because they can't stay focused long enough, and then they get mad at you and envious and jealous and petty and all of
Oh,
that, and it's like you're doing it just to stick it to them, like, "Oh, Rob's doing another book. He's just
yeah,
reminding me that I suck."
yeah, that's what it is.
You know? Ah,
And
I get that from some people too.
I'm gonna let everybody on a little secret, so that you can take Rob's advice and write your own damn book. You don't have to sit down all at once and write the book. You can write little bit at a time and then compile it at the end. That's all
Mhm.
I do. I'm just a compiler. That's all I am. And then I'll add blurbs to every story that. So I just write, share out stories. Nothing special.
Yep. I've published 4 books so far, and the first one 3 of them are personal development, quote, call to action, motivational firewood, that's my brand.
Mhm.
Kinda like what you do, but, you have a whole conversation which you then comment on. I find quotes that inspire me, and then I create an actionable message to go
Yeah,
with each one.
that's how the lessons from the dojo book that I wrote back in 2015 was.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
people loved it.
Yep,
You
yep.
know.
My very first book, December of 2004, and this was right when my life was totally in the ashes. You talk about you had a cleaning business. Well, I
Mhm.
owned a DJ company doing weddings and corporate events for 28 and a half years. I was part of 1,700 events over almost 30 years. And myself, photographers, videographers, even if I ran into another DJ, we would always swap these stories about the weirdest things that ever happened to us. Everyone has stories.
Mhm.
I am the only one who wrote them all down and made a book. And I've done research. I've done searches, exhaustive searches online. I cannot find another book like it. And it it was just because I used to tell brides these stories. They're like, "I'm so nervous." I go, "Hey, you got a second?
Mhm.
Let me tell you about the time this happened or this happened." I said, "Now, first, let me just tell you, I don't want to write another book, so I'm not going to sabotage your wedding." And they would laugh at that. I said, "Tell you what, let me send you a copy of the book."
Mhm.
The book's called Table 7, Your Centerpiece is on Fire, which did happen very early in my career. I still have copies of it. Matter of fact, when we bought this house and I took some stuff out of storage, I found another box of books. I thought it was sold out. I've still been sending these out to people and other DJs. "Oh, you're lucky you wrote that book." I'm like, "You got stories?" "Yeah."
Mhm.
"Why don't you write a book?" "Oh, I couldn't write a book." I said, "That's what I said 20 years ago."
Mhm.
I said, "I wrote my book. I've written 3 more since then. One was written by a dog."
Mhm.
Just a little bit at a time. And all that was we took 20 pictures of the dog and thought, "What would he say in this picture? What would his advice be to people to be as happy as
And
dogs?"
there was a lot of rum and coke involved in that.
There might have been a little bit, yeah, in my little dish, in my water bowl at the time, but, it doesn't take a lot.
No.
It's as it comes to you, file it away. People say, "Well, I can't write, I'm driving around all the time." I go, "Even better. You got a little voice recorder in your phone? Yeah, good. Put it next to you."
Yeah.
And just start talking because at least that way it's gonna come off conversational, then you upload it to Otter or Rev.com or whatever,
Mhm.
get it transcribed, and
Yeah,
just
and
keep
and
tucking them away in a folder. That's how
and
Rodney
and
Dangerfield used to write his material.
right.
Scraps of paper, he would throw them in a trash bag for years. I mean, he had a really difficult life. Most of his life was very difficult, and he didn't perform for a long time, but he kept having ideas. He'd put them on slips of paper in a trash bag, and right around the mid to late '60s, he opened up the bag
Yeah.
and became the Rodney Dangerfield that we saw
Mhm.
because of all of that. He just kept writing,
Yeah.
even when he wasn't using it. His brain still worked.
Yeah. So how do people find you? Where do they go?
Nice and easy, stevegamlin.com, Gamlin.
And that's it, folks. We'll see you on the next episode. Adios.